All right, everybody, welcome back to the Pierce Dispatch. I am here with Hershey Volunteer Fire Company out of Pennsylvania, welcoming not one, but two of the Leonards from the department. First, we're going to kick it off with Chief Pat Leonard. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us here.
Absolutely. So, can we dive in and talk a little bit about Hershey Volunteer Fire Company?
Sure. Yeah, our company was started in 1905. One of our members was Milton Hershey, who is the legacy of starting the Hershey Chocolate Company. We serve a community of about 23,000 residents, but in our township, we also have an entertainment venue that in the summertime, those numbers can go to 60 or 70,000 people. So it's kind of we have recreation, we have industrial, we have the Penn State University Medical Center is in our first new area. So we have a wide variety of people that we serve.
Absolutely. So, how does your fleet set you up for success with that diverse of a response area?
We work very closely with all the entities in Derry Township. What are our needs? Heights, as far as our ascendant aerial, we think about the heights of buildings and we work around what we need to protect. And that's basically how we set up our fleets.
So, what kind of apparatus do you have in your fleet currently?
So our fleet, we run two engines, an attack, a heavy rescue, and an ascendant aerial. And the piece that we're here to look at this week is going to make our company almost all Pierce. And we're very excited about that.
Well, we love to hear that. How closely does your department work with the neighboring fire agencies? And can you share any examples of the mutual aid with them?
Over the years, had real nice relationships with our mutual aid companies, but it has become more important in the last 5 years or so because we're all struggling in the volunteer fire service for membership. People don't have time. They've got a couple jobs. They've got children. They don't have time for the training. So right now, as we sit here today, it's very, very important for the mutual aid relationships to continue. We have our differences, and we're just like a family. And but when the bell goes off or the pagers go off, we like to think that we're a good mutual aid company, and we have good mutual aid companies assisting us.
Yeah, one team, one goal. So, can you share how does serving a unique community like Hershey shape your operations and your training and the dynamics of your department?
Again, great question. We're very, very fortunate in our department, all our entities, Hershey Chocolate Company, the Medical Center, the Hershey Entertainment Resorts, which runs the Hershey Park. We get together on a regular basis, at least semi-annually, but sometimes more frequently. We get together and we take tours of the facilities. We meet just to talk about the summer activities that are coming up, how many concerts are coming in, how many people they're expecting. So that kind of relationship helps us be prepared for, what's coming into town. Some weekends we have a concert with 30,000 people plus 30,000 people in the park in a very concentrated area. So if we know what concerts are in, how many people are expected, that kind of lets us gauge what possibly could be an issue during that time.
Sure. And are there any trainings that you guys practice for best success during those times?
We train every Monday night. And again, during the winter time is when we hit those facilities. We're not doing a lot of outside training. So we'll take our tour of the Reese's plant, the Hershey plant, the large hotels in the community. And some of those facilities let us run full out drills, training drills on their property.
Wow, that's really nice of them and very beneficial too, I'm sure.
It is.
All right, so you're here taking delivery of an enforcer pumper. How will this impact your service to Hershey?
Well, again, it's just going to be another tool in our toolbox. We're excited to put that into our fleet. In fact, you're building another piece of apparatus for us in your Florida facility. That's going to be our attack truck, and they're replacing other pieces. So they're going to fill a very important need and just be a great, great asset to our fleet.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing a little high overview of your department. We're going to dive in with Assistant Chief Colton Leonard next, and I want to thank you for coming on.
Welcome.
So now we have our second speaker from Hershey, Pennsylvania, Assistant Chief Colton Leonard. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, hello.
So we are going to dive a little deeper into your enforcer pumper in this segment. So when your department was deciding to procure this enforcer pumper, and you had even mentioned, or your dad had mentioned earlier in the episode about how you have an attack pumper being built in Bradenton,
Yeah.
what were those considerations and challenges that drove you to procuring those apparatus?
Yeah, so our relationship with Pierce has really been developed over the last 10, 12 years. And we've had really good success with our apparatus that we've gotten through Pierce. So we've been happy with that. So obviously that goes into making the decision pretty easy. Working with Kyle has always been something that we enjoy doing. So when Pierce made it available to make some of the things on the Enforcer customizable that weren't before, I think really made us want that Enforcer look, which was important to us. I guess you can say the aesthetics part of it was half of it, but like any fire engine can look as cool as you want it to and have cool graphics and all sorts of things, but it needs to be operational. So I think the other part of that for us was we wanted to add that low hose bed to our fleet, which is new to us. We wanted to make that operational. Sometimes in the past, we've put it real high up and out of the way, and it wasn't feasible to use every day on every operation. So bringing that hose bed low and making it accessible to us to use as a suppression part of the pumper was important to us. So we were really happy with that. And the other glaringly new to the Hershey Volunteer Fire Company for anybody that has seen pictures or have visited before is we brought the ladder back to the outside of the engine to where I believe a ladder should be on a fire engine. But that's again, that's the aesthetic thing in me where we can argue all the time about how a fire engine should look, but the ladder on the side really is the classic place where it should be. But people also forget that it's there for a reason. So when it comes to apparatus placement, if you park the pumper in a place where you can't access the rear of it, which sometimes people park you in, or you get into a different difficult place where you can't access that ladder out of the back end of the unit, and having it off the side just makes it easier and sometimes safer for one person to grab it and use it quickly. And that's what it would be obviously needed for. So that was important to us. The third thing that was new is we added a lot more space in the cab to mount. So we deleted a few seats to make that happen, but we added a lot of cab space to be able to mount things. So that was also important to us. So those three items were really big and important while we were designing the pieces. So
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you had some really good ideas. You talked about the low hose bed, the ladders, and your cab space.
yeah.
And it sounds like, yes, you talk about the aesthetic, but this is really going to be a workhorse engine for you
Yes. Yep.
that's going to serve your operations and be dialed into what you guys actually need it to be doing
Sure.
for each call. So when I have to ask, when you came up with the hose bed design and the ladder rack and the mounting things in the cab, were there different apparatus that you looked at for inspiration, or where did you come up when you were trying to decide on these decisions?
Sure. So our 2011 Pierce Ascendant and this engine, we tried to lay them out relatively the same. So obviously with the changes we've made now, they're going to be a little different. But being a volunteer department and having certain people can drive certain apparatus at certain times, depending on how they're trained, we try to have both of them laid out and carry the same equipment. So that which is an ease of training, and we can marry them in a way where little nuances are fine. But if somebody's running around when we need something and it's not in the same place and they have to remember certain things under stress, we try to streamline that process by keeping them the same. So we run into a little problem with that, with having this design being new to us. But for the most part, both of our engines, our frontline engines in our fleet, are laid out the same. So that was important while we were designing too. Where's the certain things going to go, and is it going to look the same? And we might have to switch some things on the older one to match this one, but that's really the inspiration for how we were going to lay out all the mounting and things like that for the tools.
Yeah, that's a common trend I hear is the
Yeah.
consistency is going to lead to your department's
Yeah.
success.
Yeah. Yeah. Even for me, I don't want to have to remember where certain things are. So
Okay, so tell me, where is this enforcer pumper going to be stationed in the area that that station serves? Like, is it going to serve the Hershey plant, the parks, the hospital?
yeah, so we have one station in Hershey, and like the chief had mentioned before, we work with a lot of our mutual aid partners very closely. So we do serve the Hershey plant, the 3 chocolate manufacturing facilities there. There's an amusement park. The We have an AHL hockey team that has their home arena there, 30,000 seat stadium for concert venues. So our transient population is pretty large during the summer. Well, now it's not even just during the summer. There's always something going on. So that influx of people is always happening. And that's not even counting the everyday residents of Derry Township where we serve. So that is our first due area is about 20 square miles. So that's pretty big for one station. So that's where that mutual aid relationships really come in. So it's going to be at the only firehouse that, to answer your question, is that's where it's going to be stationed. But we rotate our frontline engines weekly for which one is first due, which one's going to be second due, kind of thing, just to try to keep it does one or two things. Well, it keeps the mileage equal on all of our rigs for wear and tear purposes and making sure that everything is going to be maintenanced well, and it keeps everybody trained and operating both units at the same time, right? So no one gets, "So I'm just gonna drive this engine," and then one day has to come in and drive the other engine, and they don't know how to use it. So that's how we keep them fresh as we go back and forth between the 2, so.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and especially from a fleet maintenance perspective, I'm sure that makes a lot of sense for your department and keeping apparatus as sharp as they can
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
So, with the diverse amount of different areas and dynamics with parks and medical centers and factories, what kinds of calls will the engine be going on? Will it be going on medical or is it strictly fire? I know you're a volunteer, so I'm sure you do it all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I know a lot of people will like this answer, I'm sure, but yeah, we run a lot of fire alarms. So we have a lot of hotels, and like we mentioned before, there's a lot of target areas that are very populated. So it's going to be like when I mentioned before about it bouncing back and forth between the first engine out of the station every other week. So that's how it's going to serve us. It's going to be usually the first piece of apparatus out the door on at least our first due calls. But like I said, our mutual aid partners will call us for the engine company at different points of the time. So,
Okay, so as a volunteer department, let's talk about the members behind the apparatus in your fleet. So, how have you found success in recruiting and retaining members, and how many members do you have?
okay, so on our roster, we have about 70 people, and that includes 12 to 14 to 18-year-olds, so high school kids. So we have a junior firefighter program. So the number gets pretty low quickly because that's good. We want to keep people involved and invested while they're young to try to instill that sense of community in them, right? So we do have that. And then we have a awesome group of administrative staff that don't do anything but be behind the scenes and keep the lights on and keep the apparatus maintained and making sure we're doing things behind the scenes that a lot of other people may not have the time to do or have the ability to do at their level that they are able to do it at. So that's pretty important to us. It's important, I guess, to note always that like the volunteer fire service has been hard to really maintain over the last 10 to 15 years for people. And it's not something that's the firefighters are always prideful in their service, right? No matter what. But in the volunteer fire service, the threshold between being prideful in your service and providing adequate service to the community that you serve becomes very narrow very quickly if you have numbers drop. You know, you need the people to get on the fire engines and you need the people to come around to do the little things. And over the past 10 to 15 years, lifestyle obligations for people in any sort of way have just made it impossible for people to volunteer. The people they want to, they just can't. So the easiest way that I've said it in the recent past here is people can't afford to volunteer. So if you really think about that, it's kind of sad in a way, but we do have to have that point where you have to realize that emergencies still happen. So we are very fortunate that we work with our township in the sense of we're always making sure that we are in a spot that our level of service won't stop as volunteers, but we also realize that we have these issues that, you know, you're always one or two people away from being in trouble. So you really have to keep those people involved and invested. And I think that's our main strategy at the Hershey Fire Company is we've created a culture of trying to instill that community service in the sense of retaining quality people. So you can have 100 people on your fire department, and I don't think it's just special to the volunteers. It's everybody, right? You can have as many people on the roster as you want, but if you don't have the quality of people, it doesn't matter. So we're very lucky that we have a certain type of person that sticks around with us. And we're very proud of that. And our leadership takes pride in not only having those quality people, but I think we pour into our memberships a lot more than some others might. And I think that's our benefit to the retention. You can throw all sorts of things at them. People don't care about a free t-shirt, really. They don't care about a backpack, but we do those things. But I think the more important thing for us is building the relationships. We'll keep the volunteers in Hershey for as long as possible. So I think that's our main strategy is be good people and keep good people around. So
Wow, I'm very moved by what you just shared, and it really comes to show that you can't just buy a culture, you have to
right.
build it and invest in it. And it sounds like you're really doing that with your junior firefighter program and just connecting with your community.
Yeah, you can't make everybody happy, but if 4 people join and we keep 2, we consider that a success.
So building and encouraging and connecting to build that buy-in is what's
Yeah.
really setting your responses apart is what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
I would say that's a good summary.
So what's the future for Hershey Volunteer Fire Company?
Like I've been saying, I think it's a common theme is we are very fortunate with the people that we have and the relationships that we have with our town leaders and the people who support us, or we wouldn't be here, right, at Pierce getting an awesome new piece of apparatus. So maintaining those relationships and that status is the utmost importance. So that's where I see the future. And providing the volunteer fire service to the township that we serve as long as possible with the knowing that if there ever becomes that point where we can't, you have to have those tough conversations and you have to be able to make sure that the people that you signed up to serve are protected adequately. So it's always changing in the volunteer fire service, but we have the right people in the right places to make those decisions. So it's a day-to-day grind and a day-to-day reevaluating of how things are. But I think it's important that the residents and the visitors of Derry Township know that they have those people in those places and that there are people there to serve them. And we're always looking for people if you want to help. So the door is always open and you can always apply. So there's my shameless plug for more volunteers.
Absolutely. We'll link to the department in the show notes.
Perfect.
Well, you definitely brought in your closers, bringing in the assistant chief here. And I want to say thank you so much for coming on. It was such a joy hearing about your department and your new apparatus. And there's certainly a bright future in a current situation
Hope so.
for the department.
Yeah, thanks for having us.